Vinicius Jr. coming to Arsenal. That was on the back of the big news that broke yesterday from the respected journalist David Ornstein, who said that Vinicius Jr. could be coming to Arsenal. Arsenal are exploring a move to bring Vinicius Jr. to Arsenal, still at the early stages. Of course, we've heard him use the word explore before, and players have turned up. He said that when he was describing Solis at the start of this season, that we were exploring that, and that happened. So could this exploration bring Vinicius Jr. to Arsenal? I'm sure everybody would like to see it, but he said, listen, it's been approved at all levels by the Arsenal hierarchy, by the Arsenal transfer team, by Mikel Arteta. Go and get him. We would like to sign Vinicius Jr. So that is big, big news. And, you know, as I was explaining to a lot of people yesterday, he only has 1 year left on his current Real Madrid contract. This is why this could happen. 1 year left on his deal. And there's lots of sort of factors and things like this that are coming into play. One of them was that Real Madrid, we know, are trying to make a play right now to bring in Yan Diomande. They would love to bring him in. I mean, they were targeting Michael Olise as well. They're not able to get Olise away from Bayern, but they are very, very interested in signing Yan Diomande. They've said to put in a bid of around £85 million that's been rejected. They said they're going to go back and try and get a deal done to bring him in. So where does this leave Vinicius Jr.? Of course, Real Madrid already have Kylian Mbappe, the best player in the world. The owner and president of Real Madrid stated a couple of months ago that next season they're looking to play him more in his preferred position, which is on the left wing, which is exactly where Vinicius Jr. plays. And that's the problem. Vinicius Jr., as we know, world-class player, but so is Kylian Mbappe, and Mbappe is better, so he's going to own that spot. And if you're bringing in Yan Diomande on top of that, where does that leave Vinicius Jr.? And as I said, 1 year left on his contract. So both parties have a decision to be made. Real Madrid do not want to lose Vinicius Jr. on a free. Remember, he could just stay at the club, ride it out, and then at the end of the season, which is only, end of next season, he can just turn around and walk away for absolutely nothing. And they've got a player of such high value that just goes through the door for free. And they're not going to make that happen this summer. They've already said it. They're not going to let him go on a free. So it's either he signs a new contract or he leaves. And despite the news today that, Jose Mourinho does not want to lose, of course, Jose Mourinho now the new manager of Real Madrid, he doesn't want to lose Vinicius Jr. He said quite clearly, I want Mbappe, I want Vinicius Jr., I want Bellingham, I want those guys to be my main three players at the club. But with only 1 year left, Real Madrid may be forced to sell him because they do not want a high-value player like that walking out the door for free. And then Vinicius Jr. on his, when you think on his side of things, does he want to sign a new deal? As I said, he could walk away for free, negotiate big, big wages wherever he goes. That's one option for him, right? Or they sign him on a new long-term contract. They give him reassurances that he's going to play and the wages increase. I mean, it's not an easy deal to get done, and that's why it's not been done so far. And with Arsenal now, and this news coming out from David Ornstein, that, they're willing to go and buy him. They've agreed, they would have looked at all the prices and everything, and they've agreed to go and do it. It's big news because it means that if he doesn't sign a new contract, he could be ending up coming to a club like Arsenal. And it was really interesting yesterday that there was another journalist who works for ESPN. He's like their sort of Spanish journalist who goes by the name of Javier Rodriguez Pascual. He said that Arsenal are the only realistic destination for Vinicius Jr. if he leaves Real Madrid this summer. That was really interesting that he said that. He also went on to say that Arsenal have been studying the finances around any possible transfer for several days, and they've agreed, we can do this, we can get it done. Vinicius Jr. said to be on around about £400,000 a week. That's a lot of money, a hell of a lot of money. However, if you look into the finances, Arsenal, they've won the league, they got to the final of the Champions League, they had record-breaking finances that came in, so they're in a good position, and the fact that they could move on a couple of players that could cover off those wages. They could actually move on 2 players, which are 2 players that could move on, especially if Vinicius Jr. comes in. One of them is Gabriel Jesus. Arsenal actively trying to move him on. He's on £265,000 a week in wages, one of the highest earners at the club.
Contradicts, you would argue, what Fabrizio has said here, but I want to talk about both of them. Fabrizio says there will be a madness. Fabrizio is saying there will be new club-to-club contact. This in the know intel is claiming that the deal was already agreed. Now, when it comes to this in the know, I'm always someone that will refer to them. Not saying it's true, not saying I 100% believe it, but this summer, this individual has got a lot of stories right. And not just posting hundreds and hundreds of stories, weeks and weeks in advance, hoping some of them come to fruition. I'm talking updating on Tonali deal with Tottenham 3 to 4 hours before Ornstein. This guy got the jump, I believe, on a couple of deals of that level. So I wanted to share it. Some people believe this deal is closing in. Others think it is still a fair way away from completion. But look, you guys can all have your say on that below. But what Fabrizio Romano, has also stated here is that new club-to-club talks are going to take place. I want to break this deal down and compartmentalize it, because there are some in the know and there are some journalists out there that are now claiming this deal is verbally agreed, close to an agreement, will happen imminently. There are others like Fabrizio that are claiming that new club-to-club talks are going to take place. He's the number one priority. Personal terms have been agreed. And I'm paraphrasing what multiple journalists have said, not just Fabrizio. Personal terms are agreed. The deal is going to progress, etc., etc. And then you have some others, which a lot of the time are the Newcastle-based press that have gone from this deal will not happen, the club will not sell, down to last night, Luke Edwards updating and saying, it's 50-50. The deal could happen. And I do feel a little sorry for the Newcastle supporters in this, because the press that they trust, the press that have access to their club, I believe, just continually pull the wool over their eyes, continually drag them a little bit. And they really drag them, rather than just being open and honest from the beginning, which would have been Newcastle don't want to sell. Newcastle are offering a new deal, but Newcastle are willing to sell at the right price. Instead, they have made this a frustrating, tiring, and laborious process when it needn't be. Arsenal have been doing their negotiations via an intermediary, which is so typical in transfers. What have the Newcastle press done? They've tried to make what Arsenal are doing sound alien, different, atypical. They tried to muddy the waters the day after Kevin Keegan very sadly passed away, that Arsenal were a disgrace for the media printing stories about Bruno G's exit. This was at the same time that they were finalizing a deal to bring Bamba in to St. James's Park whilst negotiating the exit of Joe Willock. You couldn't make it up. The irony and the hypocrisy from the, not Newcastle Football Club, the Newcastle media, but they're essentially the mouthpiece of the club, and many Newcastle fans hang on their every word. So look, this deal has become convoluted because you have a side, you have a part of this deal that have just muddied the waters. Hard deal to get done. Arsenal Football Club are doing the right thing. It does carry a bit of risk, but they're negotiating the price down. They want to get the player closer to their valuation rather than just paying what Newcastle want. And that is their right. Newcastle have the right to charge what they want. Arsenal have the right to try and negotiate that price down. Yes, the Rodgers deal put some fear amongst Arsenal fans because a hijack has happened. Maybe now we know why the hijack happened with Vini Jr. We'll see what happens with that deal later in the window. But Fabrizio now saying new club-to-club talks, that is significant. Why? Because people have played down that there have been no contact between the football clubs. But most of the neutral journalists have said there has been contact to a certain degree. But overall, this does feel to me like the deal is coming to a close. It does feel like a decision from Newcastle and the final bid from Arsenal is imminent. Now, the in the know that we mentioned, let's wait and see what happens with this deal. Let's see how close this is to being accurate. Because I do have this feeling that some of the in the knows are people really connected to football clubs, really connected to certain journalists. I'm not sure whether they're unable to get a story out. This happens in the real journalistic world, by the way. Sometimes a journalist is told you can't release this story because the paper might get sued. So the journalist might give the story to a website or
as a whole so far. Obviously you've brought the 4 in, but you've lost a couple of big names in the shape of Anthony Gordon and Sandro Tonali.
Yeah, I think we don't want to lose our best players. That's, I think, an obvious statement to make. So losing those big 2 is painful for us and difficult. So for me, it's been another challenging summer so far. But we're always trying to do our best for the football club, short and long term, and try and get the squad in its best shape. It
definitely looks like a change in the model this summer in terms of the profile of the players you're bringing in.
Yeah, I'm very supportive of what the club want to do. Yeah, there's been a shift in terms of the profile and the age. I think that's quite obvious. I've always believed in young players and tried to develop young players, so that fits in line with my philosophy anyway.
And so much being said, externally about Bruno Guimaraes and his situation at the club. Have you spoken to him, and what is the current situation there?
Yeah, I've spoken to him as I would do Bruno normally. He's just a fantastic person. I've had some really good conversations, both sort of before the World Cup, during the World Cup and after the World Cup. So what we speak about obviously has to remain private, but just a great player, a great person. And what was the second part that you asked there?
Are you confident you'll be able to hold on to him? I don't think I said that, but I'm just adding that.
Oh, okay, sorry. Maybe I
gave me a chance
the second
there.
question. Look, I don't know what's going to happen with Bruno's future. That's for other people to, one, speculate about, but also conversations that I'm not part of.
News to bring you now, and we understand that Harry Kane will begin contract talks with Bayern Munich when he returns from his summer holiday. Kane's deal expires at the end of the coming season, and the England captain has interest from Barcelona, but is very happy in Germany. Kane's believed to be very relaxed about the situation, but given the reported interest before the World Cup, Bayern Munich are keen to start the negotiations. The England captain scored 6, didn't he, at the World Cup to take his tally to an astonishing 73 goals for club and country. Kane has repeatedly expressed his happiness in Germany and his family enjoy life in Munich. So we'll bring you more on that, of course, as we get it here.